She still faced challenges, but they felt meaningful rather than draining. She had built a life that reflected her values, and in doing so, she had reclaimed a sense of agency she thought was gone forever. When people asked if she wished she had started sooner, she smiled thoughtfully. Of course, there were moments when she imagined an alternate timeline where she had been braver in her youth. But she also recognized that regret served little purpose. The past was fixed. What mattered was that she had started when she did. Her story wasn't about lost time. It was about the power of beginning now. Her message to anyone listening was simple yet profound. You are not behind. You are not disqualified by your age or your history. The only moment that truly exists is the one in front of you. Every dream you carry is a seed waiting for attention. It doesn't demand instant transformation. It asks for consistent care, for small daily actions that accumulate into change. She emphasized that fear never disappears completely. Even after years of progress, she still encountered doubt. The difference was that she no longer allowed it to control her decisions. She treated fear as a companion on the journey, acknowledging its presence without surrendering to it. Courage, she learned, wasn't the absence of fear. It was the choice to move forward anyway. Her life became a testament to the idea that reinvention is always possible. She didn't see herself as extraordinary. She saw herself as proof that ordinary people can create extraordinary change through persistence and belief. Her transformation wasn't driven by sudden inspiration alone. It was sustained by daily discipline, by showing up even when motivation faded. As her story reached more people, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Not for recognition, but for the opportunity to encourage others. She understood how isolating it felt to believe you were stuck. If her journey could offer even a small spark of hope to someone else, every struggle she had faced was worth it. In quiet moments, she returned to the memory of her 42nd birthday. She pictured the woman she had been, sitting with uncertainty and fear. She wished she could reach back through time and whisper reassurance, "You are stronger than you think. This is not the end of your story. It is the beginning." And maybe that's the heart of her message to all of us. We often treat our lives as if the most important chapters are already written. We assume that after a certain age, the plot is fixed. But her experience revealed a different truth. Each day offers a blank page. Each decision has the power to redirect the narrative. If you find yourself listening to this story and recognizing pieces of your own life, consider it an invitation. Not to make reckless leaps or abandon responsibility, but to examine the quiet whispers you've been ignoring. Ask yourself the same question she asked: if nothing changed, would I be happy years from now? Let your honest answer guide you. Remember that starting late is still starting. Progress measured in small steps is still progress. The timeline you fear is not your enemy. It is simply the backdrop against which your courage can shine. Every skill can be learned. Every path can be adjusted. What matters most is your willingness to begin. Her journey continues, as all journeys do. She still sets new goals, still faces new fears, still grows in ways she never anticipated. But she carries with her the unshakable knowledge that it is never too late to pursue a life that feels authentic. That knowledge is her compass, guiding her through uncertainty with quiet confidence. So as this story comes to a close, imagine the woman she has become standing before you, not as a distant hero, but as a reflection of what is possible. She is proof that purpose is patient, that dreams can survive years of neglect, and that the moment you choose to listen to your inner voice can change everything. And if there is one lesson her life offers above all others, it is this: the best time to start may have been years ago, but the second best time is right now. Your age is not a barrier. Your past is not a prison. The future is shaped by the actions you take today. Like her, you have the power to rewrite your story, to step into the unknown, and to discover a purpose that has been waiting for you all along. Their doubts stung, but they also strengthened her resolve. She realized that no one else could fully understand the hunger she felt inside. This journey was personal. It wasn't about proving anything to others. It was about honoring a promise she had made to herself. Months passed, and her skills improved. What once felt impossible became manageable. She started taking on small projects, testing her abilities in the real world. Each success, no matter how minor, built her confidence. Each mistake became a lesson instead of a reason to quit. She learned to view failure not as a verdict on her worth, but as a natural part of growth. There were still difficult days. Days when exhaustion returned, when progress seemed painfully slow, when the safety of her old routine called to her like a familiar friend. On those days, she revisited the question she had asked on her birthday. Would I be happy if nothing changed? The answer remained the same, and it pushed her forward. As her 43rd birthday approached, she looked back in amazement at how much her life had shifted in a single year. She hadn't become an overnight success. She hadn't reached every goal she had imagined. But she had transformed her relationship with herself. She no longer saw age as a barrier. She saw it as an asset. Her years of experience had given her resilience, discipline, and perspective that her younger self never possessed. With growing confidence, she made another bold decision. She reduced her hours at her job to dedicate more time to her new path. It was a calculated risk, one that required careful planning and sacrifice. She cut unnecessary expenses, saved aggressively, and prepared for uncertainty. Each step demanded courage, but it also reinforced her belief that she was capable of shaping her future. The transition wasn't smooth. There were moments of financial stress and emotional strain. She questioned herself repeatedly, wondering if she had been reckless. But every time she considered giving up, she remembered the woman she had been at 42, sitting with that cup of coffee and feeling trapped. She refused to return to that version of herself. Gradually, her efforts began to bear fruit. Opportunities appeared where there had once been none. Her dedication attracted mentors and collaborators who recognized her passion. She built a network of people who inspired and challenged her. For the first time in decades, she felt aligned with her work. What she did each day reflected who she truly was. One evening, after completing a project that once would have seemed impossible, she sat quietly and allowed herself to feel proud. Not proud of external achievements or recognition, but proud of her courage to start. She understood that the most significant victory wasn't the destination. It was the decision to begin despite fear. Her story spread quietly among those who knew her. People were drawn to her transformation. They saw the light in her eyes, the confidence in her voice, and they asked how she had done it. She shared her journey honestly, emphasizing that there was no secret formula. There was only a willingness to confront fear, to accept discomfort, and to take consistent action. Through her experience, she discovered a truth that many of us forget: purpose isn't reserved for the young. It doesn't expire with age. It evolves with us, waiting for the moment we are ready to claim it. She realized that every year she had lived before starting this journey had prepared her for it. Nothing was wasted. Every challenge, every setback, and every lesson had shaped her into the person capable of pursuing her dream. As she moved further along her path, she became an example to others who felt stuck. Friends in their 30s, 40s, and 50s confided in her about their own hidden aspirations. She encouraged them gently, reminding them that the clock we fear is often an illusion. The real limitation isn't time. It's the belief that we are bound by our past choices. Looking back, she understood that the hardest part had never been learning new skills or managing practical obstacles. The hardest part had been changing the story she told herself. For years, she had repeated a narrative of limitation: I'm too old. It's too late. I should have started earlier. Rewriting that story required patience and persistence. It required her to challenge thoughts that felt permanent and replace them with possibilities. Her journey taught her to celebrate progress instead of perfection. She learned to appreciate small victories, a completed lesson, a satisfied client, a day when fear didn't win. These moments accumulated, forming a foundation of confidence that carried her forward. She no longer measured success by comparison to others. She measured it by her commitment to growth. At 45, she stood in a place she once believed was unreachable. Her work aligned with her passion. Her days were filled with purpose. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to tell you a story about time, fear, and the quiet voice inside us that refuses to disappear no matter how hard we try to ignore it. This is the story of a woman who believed her life had already been decided, who thought her chances were behind her, and who learned at 42 that purpose doesn't follow a schedule. It waits patiently, sometimes for decades, until we are brave enough to listen. For most of her adult life, she lived what many people would call a normal, successful routine. She woke up early, prepared breakfast, rushed through traffic, and spent long hours at a job that paid the bills but never touched her heart. Every evening she returned home exhausted, scrolling through her phone, watching other people chase dreams she once had. Somewhere deep inside, a quiet restlessness grew stronger each year. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was a gentle but persistent whisper asking, "Is this really all there is?" In her 20s, she had dreams of creating something meaningful. She wanted to build a life around creativity and service, to wake up excited instead of anxious. But life happened the way it often does. Responsibilities arrived quickly. There were family expectations, financial pressures, and the constant message from the world that stability mattered more than passion. So she made practical choices. She told herself that dreams were luxuries for people with more time, more money, or more talent. By the time she reached her 30s, that whisper inside her had become easier to ignore. She had grown skilled at convincing herself that it was too late to change direction. She compared herself to younger people who seemed to be racing ahead, starting businesses, traveling the world, and reinventing themselves without fear. Each comparison added another layer of doubt. She believed she had missed her window. The path she was on felt permanent, like wet cement that had already hardened. Then, on her 42nd birthday, something unexpected happened. There was no dramatic crisis or sudden disaster. Instead, there was a quiet moment of honesty. She sat alone with a cup of coffee before the rest of the house woke up. The early morning light filled the room, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to ask a simple question without running from it. If nothing changed, would I be happy living this same life 10 years from now? The answer arrived instantly, and it scared her. It was a clear, undeniable no. That realization didn't come with fireworks or applause. It came with a heavy silence and a racing heartbeat. She felt the weight of lost time pressing on her shoulders. 42 years sounded like a closing door. Her mind flooded with reasons to stay exactly where she was. You're too old to start over. People will judge you. What if you fail? What if you embarrass yourself? Each fear stacked on top of the other, building a wall that seemed impossible to climb. But alongside the fear was something new, a spark of determination. For the first time, the idea of staying the same felt more frightening than the idea of changing. She realized that regret was a heavier burden than risk. The thought of reaching the end of her life and wondering what might have been hurt more than the possibility of failure. So she made a small decision that morning. She didn't quit her job or announce a grand plan. She simply promised herself that she would take one step toward her forgotten dream every day, no matter how small. One step. That was all. Her first step was awkward and uncertain. She signed up for an online class related to the field she had once loved. As she clicked the enrollment button, her hands trembled. A voice inside her insisted she was being foolish. But another voice, quieter yet stronger, reminded her that growth always begins with discomfort. The early weeks were challenging. After long days at work, she forced herself to study when all she wanted to do was rest. There were moments when the material felt overwhelming, when younger classmates seemed to grasp concepts faster than she did. Doubt returned again and again, whispering that she didn't belong. But each time it appeared, she remembered her promise. One step a day. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to keep moving. Slowly, something remarkable began to happen. The more she invested in learning, the more alive she felt. Energy replaced exhaustion. Curiosity replaced boredom. She started waking up earlier, not because she had to, but because she wanted extra time to practice and explore. The hours she spent pursuing her passion no longer felt like work. They felt like rediscovering a part of herself she thought she had lost forever. Her family and friends reacted in different ways. Some were supportive, cheering her on and celebrating her courage. Others were skeptical, questioning why she would risk stability at her age.